Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to a special Wednesday edition of Mending Families. I'm your host, Melissa Pemberton. Oh, wait, I'm not Melissa Pemberton. You're Melissa Pemberton. I'm your host, Jon Pemberton, host extraordinaire, guest host for the day, and we are here to celebrate two birthdays. The first is your own personal birthday.
Oh, I was like, what?
Which we celebrated this week.
Yes.
29 years young.
Look at how young I am.
So young,
Yep.
so young. But more importantly, and very excitedly, we are here on this special Wednesday edition of Mending Families to celebrate the 1-year anniversary of your Mending Families podcast. Yay! This is a monumental
I know, right?
effort, monumental task. No, not task. Monumental achievement, accomplishment.
There it is.
In the world of podcasting. As you know, there's lots of statistics on podcasts and the length of survival. I did a little digging.
Oh.
It's kind of hard to get all of the stats, but what I came to was that there's about 4 million podcasts out there.
It's a lot.
And only about 8% of them make it past episode 10, which is pretty remarkable. So you are in the top 8% of podcasters in the entire universe, which is really amazing.
Because this is episode 55.
Episode 55, which is absolutely remarkable. And so we're here to celebrate that. We're here to kind of have a fun conversation about how it's been for you, some things you've got going on, and just to talk about. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you.
And
birthday.
Birthday.
I didn't bury my podcast.
It's a 1-year anniversary of you having a podcast.
Okay.
I mean, just,
all right.
Tomato. You know what I'm saying?
Got it.
We're funny. Okay. I'm funny for sure. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. Do you want to get started?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's do it.
So I've just got a list of questions here. Melissa has not seen them. She has literally no idea what I'm going to ask her. So this is totally off the cuff from her heart.
Oh.
So first and foremost, I'm going to go with sort of an easy one, kind of a softball, they like to call it. It's a softball.
I don't like softballs.
You don't have. Wow. Okay. Anyway, the first question is this. Who has been your most attractive podcast guest?
Definitely you.
Oh, okay. Yes. I told you it was a softball. I think that was a pretty easy one. I just wanted to.
This will be your third time.
This is my third time on the podcast.
Yeah. And I only invite back the most attractive people.
Wow. 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 Well, that's very kind of you. Should we tell people about
I don't know. I'm scared.
About my wedding ring?
Yeah, let's tell them.
Yeah, just before we get started, this is a bittersweet moment. We're celebrating Melissa. We're celebrating her 1-year anniversary birthday of Mending Families podcast. But I am, since we got married, it's been almost 16 years in May 31st.
Yep.
I have gained a little bit of weight, approximately 400,000 to 500,000 pounds. And because of that, my wedding ring gets a little tight on my ring finger. And so I am notorious for taking it off, setting it next to me, letting my ring finger breathe, sort of like unbuckling a belt.
Oh, good.
When you got a tight pair of pants
on.
Right. That's like on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And so there's been a few occasions where I've done that. We thought we lost it, but we always find it.
Like probably about 10 times that's happened.
Yeah, 15, 20. And I do like my wedding ring. I value it. It was only like $80 or something.
No, it wasn't.
$100.
No.
We spent it all on yours.
No.
That's the truth.
It was several hundred.
Really?
Yeah.
That seems outlandish.
It was like 10%
for that little piece of metal on my finger. Anyway, okay, I got to speed up.
Okay,
I left it on the couch armrest last night. It is gone this morning.
Gone.
We suspect it is in the bowels of our dog. Who will hopefully defecate it out later.
But here's what I think. Jon is going on a trip by himself to California, leaving tomorrow morning. I think he wants to just see, not because he would do anything, but I think he just wants to see how many times can I get hit on when I'm by myself in SoCal.
I would say the Vegas odds of somebody hitting on me, period, 1 in a million.
Besides me.
And in my current state of functioning, maybe more than that. 1 in 10
I can't wait to
million.
find out.
I guess we'll find out. We'll see if the losing of the ring helps my odds of being hit on by somebody in SoCal. We are really off track
Yeah,
here.
I love
Okay,
it.
let's
I
get to
love it.
some real questions here
They
for
love
our
it.
big listeners out there.
Okay.
Not big, but our fans,
Yeah.
all the anyway. Wow. Okay. Number one,
Okay.
the real number one. Remind us, take us back, hearken us back to the days of why you decided to start a podcast.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, first of all, I think it was my friend Hannah LeBole, who she's been on this podcast before. She was episode something
Sure.
in November.
Sure.
And anyway, she told me about this podcast, The Happy Hour with Jamie Ivey. And I had never listened to a podcast before. And so I had to figure out like how to put the podcast player on my phone and how to play a podcast and how do I subscribe and all. This was probably like 7 years ago.
Oh, quite a while ago.
Yeah.
The seeds were planted.
Yeah. And so I binged The Happy Hour and was a faithful weekly listener. And that was kind of my like introduction to podcasts. And then Serial came out.
Okay.
We all know Serial.
Sure. Yep. Sounds.
You don't know Serial?
It's like a podcast about people getting killed, or what? Is that right?
Yeah.
Murders? Everyone likes murder.
I just thought everyone knows Serial. Anyway, so Serial came out and then I was like, this is amazing. Like it's more than just listening to my friend Jamie Ivey talk. I can also listen to true crime stuff, which I love. So anyway, all that to say that I at one point was like, I want to have a podcast someday. And I've even told you that like for years, I've said, Jon, let's make a podcast.
And so to have a true crime podcast, you embarked on a life of crime solely so that you could have a podcast about true crime. You did some white collar stuff. I remember it was tough bringing the kids into prison with you.
Okay. Anyway, so then when I started Mending Families in June of 2022, that was one of the things I said, like from the beginning is I'm going to have a podcast. I am going to have a podcast, be a part of this business and what I do to bring trauma awareness to the people.
Yes.
You people are the people.
Yes.
And so March of last year, I didn't wait very long. I started Mending Families June of 22, launched this podcast March of 23. And here we are a year later.
And here we are. And all jokes aside, I'm very proud of you for doing that, sticking with it. I remember you talked a lot about it. I remember listening to clips of potential theme music, and we had to pick between two. And we went with this one, not we, you, but we liked it. And it's very catchy.
Yeah. Do, 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 do. Yeah, right?
Yeah, it's very catchy. Yeah. So that's amazing. So,
and my friend Hannah, going back to Hannah, she helped me really solidify the graphic.
Yeah.
So hopefully I'm not jumping ahead, but I had some different options and I'd send it to Hannah and then she'd be like, ooh, what about this? Or add this. I even went over to her house one day and she said, kind of just visually showed me. And so that's why I have the graphic I have too. All because of Hannah.
Thanks, Hannah.
Thanks, Hannah.
Appreciate you. Okay. Number two, kind of general here, but what is the best part about doing a podcast?
Talking to people. Okay, this is weird because I'm actually an introvert. I don't like to talk to people. But
that's weird because your entire job is communicating
talking to people.
With people.
Maybe I do like to talk to people. This is interesting. Huh. Anyway, I would prefer to just be in my house by myself all the time, right? I'm an introvert, but I do love talking to people and hearing their stories and growing from that's it right there. It's like, how can I grow from these people that I'm talking to? I just feel like I never want to feel like I know it all, or I never want to feel like I have all the answers. And so I love that I get to talk to people, but then I also do get to share my thoughts. I do get to say, hey, here's something you can think about. So my favorite part is talking to people. My second favorite part is sharing nuggets of wisdom and just saying like, hey, if you're struggling with, I don't know, like the episode next week is going to be about chores. If you're struggling with chores, here's some ideas. So I love kind of those two pieces of it.
That's great.
Thanks.
So we just talked about what's the best part. What's the most difficult or challenging part of having a long running, well-received podcast?
Oh, you're so sweet. I think the most difficult part is finding the time to edit and get it ready. So once it's recorded, I have to like put it all together and I do all my own editing and everything. Like I'm a one man job.
One woman.
Why
would you denigrate females like that? Why would you? We've come so far.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Yeah. So, and typing up the show notes and then getting it ready to, and there's been times where I've been doing that on Sunday night, but actually yesterday's or Monday's episode, I literally did the show notes, everything Monday morning.
That was
And
yesterday.
that-
It's
Well,
yeah.
but it's actually going to be.
Oh, I forgot. What wink,
Yes.
wink. Today is Wednesday.
So I think that's been the hardest part. And then also feeling like I actually love doing the podcast. And so I wish that I could make lots of money. So if anybody wants to be my sponsor, please be my sponsor, because I would love to be able to do this more and have more time and be able to have more people on and maybe even offer more episodes. But I can't do that yet.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
Hence why many people don't make it past 10 episodes. The good news is the revenue that you have brought in from this podcast has allowed us each to purchase one crunchy taco from Taco Bell. So that's an added side effect, a bonus that we didn't expect. No sour cream on that, though.
I
We
know.
couldn't
I had
have
to
it.
use my own sour cream from home.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. This might be similar to the last one, so you can just nix it if you don't like it. But what has been the most unexpected thing about doing a podcast? Like, what is something that you just didn't think about, didn't expect? Obviously, you just talked about like the time of editing and things like that. Is there anything that you're like, I just didn't even really consider this?
Yeah, this one's kind of funny because, of course, I'm putting out a podcast and I want people to listen to it. But every time that someone I know like says, "Oh my gosh, I listened to that episode," or they text me and they say, "I love that episode," that is unexpected. Like, "Oh, you listened to my podcast."
Yeah.
So I think that it's kind of funny because it's like I want people to listen to it, but then when they tell me they've listened to it, I'm like almost shocked.
That is sort of funny. But that's a good feeling though,
Yeah.
when somebody reaches out,
Yeah.
right? And says, I listened.
Yeah, so people reach out, tell me more.
Feels validated. Yes. If you're listening to this right now, text
Send me a text.
Melissa 509-879-8252. Can I
That's
say
it.
that?
Absolutely.
Send her a
It's out there.
text and say, I'm listening and I'm laughing and this is the greatest day of my life.
And Jon is the best thing that's ever happened.
You don't need to go that far.
Okay.
But if you want to.
Wait, can I go back for a second to the last one that
Yeah.
we talked about? Oh yeah, I'm not looking at them.
Yeah.
The sponsorships.
Oh, yeah.
I actually want to this is maybe a fun time to announce a new development with the
Sure.
podcast, right? Because it's the first birthday. I actually do have a new sponsor.
That's exciting. Oh my gosh.
You're so funny.
The Seattle Seahawks. No.
West Plains Roasters.
West Plains Roasters.
Right here in Cheney. So if you're not from Eastern Washington, you may not know Cheney, you may not know West Plains Roasters. If you're from Eastern Washington and you don't know West Plains Roasters, please come to Cheney. Come have coffee with me sometime. I love West Plains Roasters. Here's why. One, they have the best lavender soda in the history of the world. Lavender honey soda. Two, they have cake every Friday. Cake, people. There was one time that they had this s'more cake. And if you know me, you know that I'm all about the s'mores, right?
Yeah.
That Jon surprised me, brought me home a slice of s'more cake. That was like the best thing that ever happened.
I remember right after that, you said, I want some more of this.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, and yeah, so West Plains Roasters is now my new sponsor, and you'll be hearing more about them and how amazing they are. But I just wanted to make that fun announcement.
That's super exciting. That
Yeah.
was unplanned.
Yeah. Thanks. Okay.
Moving
Thanks,
right
Glenn.
along.
Okay.
Oh, I'm not supposed to say I learned that in communication class.
I
a
can
long
edit that
time ago.
out.
Edit it.
I won't.
Which guest took the conversation in a totally different direction than you expected? So maybe you invited a guest on, you anticipated you were going to talk about something, and then the way the conversation went, you just found yourself going, wow, I didn't think we'd go there, but
Yeah.
we did.
I would say Jessica Sinarski, and I will link that episode in the show notes. She's amazing. And I thought we would talk more about how to get teachers to be accommodating to special needs. And we did touch on that, but I think she offered so much more than that. And so I was pleasantly surprised and I loved that episode. Also, Robin Goebel's episode was really good too. I feel like the way that she broke down the parts of the brain, the watchdog brain, the owl brain, although I anticipated we would go there, it just was more than I thought it would be.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Excellent.
You thought I was going to say you, huh?
Absolutely not. No. Edit this part out. This is not funny. It's good. All right. The next one I have here, which conversation was the most emotional or brought up the most emotions for you? So maybe, again, you're well prepared, you know what you're going to talk about when you go in, but is there any conversations that you kind of felt like, wow, that hit me even though I knew it was coming, it hit me in a different way? Or
Oh my gosh, several. So when I interviewed Haley, obviously,
that's our
I should-
daughter.
yeah,
Our daughter.
my our oldest daughter.
Yeah.
When I interviewed her, I think when I told my story, so there's two different episodes, one where I tell my childhood story, and then another where I tell my story of surviving a domestic violence relationship.
Yeah.
I also recently recorded a podcast episode that hasn't come out yet, that I definitely got emotional at the end, and it kind of caught me off guard a little bit. So
Wow.
that one's coming.
Okay. We'll look forward to that
yeah.
one. Okay. Emotions are good.
Yeah, they are good.
They are good. This is not a loaded question, and you cannot say me. Okay. So I'm just going to preface that. Who was the funniest guest? Is there one that you just found yourself thinking, this person's funny, or we're laughing, we're having a great time? I know lots of them, but is there any that come to mind?
I think Haley.
Yeah. She's pretty funny.
She's really funny.
Yeah. Trauma makes people funny.
Yeah. Love that for us. I'm thinking, I think Haley is the one. And then you always make me laugh. I make myself laugh often.
Yeah.
I think I actually, me and Hannah had some giggles. I keep bringing up Hannah.
Yeah.
I really like her, apparently.
Evidently.
Me and Hannah had some giggles. Cassie.
Yeah.
Me and Cassie laughed.
Yeah.
She was like episode 3, I want to say.
A lot of times with your close friends.
Yeah,
because
because we know each other, so
Yeah.
we can just like be silly.
That makes total sense. Excellent. Okay, moving right along. Who was the most random guest? And what I mean by that is, like, who did you think, never in a million years would I be interviewing this person on my podcast?
I have 3.
Yeah.
The first one was Tori Harris Peterson.
Yes. Peterson Hope.
Tori Hope Peterson. Peterson Hope.
Edit that out.
I will.
The first one was
Tori. And I loved interviewing her because she has an amazing story of being raised in the foster care system. But she was one of those where I just sent this blind email to and was like, hey, you're super famous. You're doing amazing things. I'm just little old me. And she's like, sure, absolutely. So that was one. And then Robin Goebel was another one that I was like, how is she on my podcast right now? Like super starstruck. And then Jessica Snarsky. Because I love Riley the Brave. Riley the Brave is my buddy.
Yeah.
And to have Riley the Brave's mommy on, because she's the author of the book, right?
Yeah.
On my podcast was just like another one of those, like, how is this happening right now? So
yeah, that's pretty cool because we read the books to our kids.
Yeah.
We've seen them. You have a sticker on your
water bottle.
On your
right here.
water bottle right here. Riley the Brave. Like, it's just one of those things where you just don't think like, oh, I'm going to be interviewing them. But turns out some of these people are pretty accessible because they are doing the work and they want to share their work with others. And you shot your shot.
I did.
Is that right?
And I got a 3-pointer.
Yeah. Yes. You made a 3-point basket, Melissa. That's right. I think it was Wayne Gretzky who said, through Michael Scott from The Office, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take.
Oh.
Somebody out there will get that reference and they'll laugh.
It's going to be Cassie Day.
The rest of them, just Google it. It's quite funny.
Good.
We're actually winding down already, which is, it goes so fast.
I mean, it don't.
Yeah. Okay. This is one I'm sure you've thought about.
Okay.
But right now at this moment, who is your number one like dream guest, right? So somebody that you could have on that you may or may not be able to do that, but if you were like, you could guarantee to have this person on your podcast, who would that be?
Oh my gosh. Wait, can I pull out my list?
Yeah.
I actually have a list, you guys, of people that I want to have on my podcast.
I love that. Smart.
Would that be fun if we just read it? I'm just kidding. We won't do that.
You could read a couple.
Okay, Cindy Lee.
Tell me more.
Okay, Cindy Lee runs Halo.
Okay.
The Halo Project in Oklahoma City, which is where I went to do my training for making sense of your worth and parenting for positive self-worth.
Okay.
So I've met her because she trained me, right? But I would love to have her on my podcast. I would love to have Jamie Finn from Foster the Family. I've reached out to her several times. She's very busy. Her assistant told me like maybe someday, but just not right now. So I'm just going to keep bugging her. Is that bad?
No,
I keep bugging her?
I think is she the one that sings that song? All the other kids with the pumped up kicks, you better. Oh, that's Foster the People.
Oh my God.
Sorry, wrong person.
Okay. I would love to have, let's see, who else do I have on here? Oh, like Dr. Becky or Dr. Eliza. They're like big in the parenting world. I will probably never have them on my podcast because they're too big. And let's see, one more. Let me look at my list here. I would say Allison Cook. She's a therapist and she has a podcast called The Best of You.
Okay.
And I would love to have her on my podcast someday. Bam.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah. And then I
Yeah.
have about 20 others.
I listened to her sister podcast called The Worst of You.
Oh my gosh, Jon.
I'll be honest with you, I'm a little bit surprised. I honestly thought like Justin Timberlake, your boyfriend, would be on there.
Oh, can I do that?
Yeah.
Justin Timberlake,
Justin Timberlake,
one.
number one. Yeah, I thought maybe we'd go that direction.
How do we get him on my podcast, everyone?
JT.
Justin Timberlake, if you're listening, text me. Jon won't care.
Wow.
He gives approval.
Wow. JT and I actually took a dance class together way back when.
That's where you got your moves from.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
We actually started a band. Well, he started in sync.
Yeah.
And I started out of sync.
Oh my gosh, you're so. Anyway, Justin Timberlake, I'm gonna add that to my list.
Yeah,
That'd be so cool.
Yeah.
I would love it if, what's his wife's name?
Jessica Biel.
Biel. I would like Jessica Biel on as well because I think she's really pretty.
Yeah.
And she's really funny.
Yeah. You can interview JT.
You
I'll
can interview Jessica
JB.
Biel. Okay.
Yeah. Did you know, this is a true story. Do you remember that I did actually go to school with somebody who was in a boy band that was famous?
Yeah, who was it?
Yeah, in the late 90s.
Yeah.
I want to say there was a show called Making the Band.
Yes.
And the first band that came out of that show was called O-Town.
Yes, O-Town.
And they sang a song like, here, I'll sing it for you.
Okay.
Is it all or nothing at all?
No,
Something like that. And then they sang another song called Liquid Dreams. And there was a gentleman in that band called Jacob. His name is Jacob Underwood. And I went to school with Jacob like my entire life growing up. And he ended up in this giant boy band that was short-lived, but I think they've done some reunion. So anyway, through that, I've got some connections. Okay. Perhaps we can get
can you do that?
JT on the show.
Okay.
Okay. Moving along, we've got just, I think, maybe two more.
Okay.
You kind of touched on this already, but are you making any changes to the podcast for the upcoming year? You've got a routine, you've done it for a year. Looking into this next year, anything you got on tap?
Well, besides adding West Plains Roasters as my sponsor, and I'm happy to add more if you would like to be a sponsor of my podcast. I also have, which I think my listeners probably know this by now, but with the new year, I did add once a month, I'm doing a Q&A.
Oh, nice.
So once a month, one of my episodes will be about a question that either comes through my monthly membership, or that somebody texts to me, or that I get through social media. So that's why next week is about chores, because I had gotten a text a few weeks ago from someone asking about feedback about chores. So it'll be answering listeners' questions, but listeners is kind of loose because it comes from any place. So
I love that idea. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Because
So
people
that's what I'll be doing.
Have questions. I think they probably listen to podcasts and sometimes they think like, oh, I wish I could ask her this, or they forget about it. So if you have a question, write it down. Email it in, mail it, write a handwritten letter, put it in the postal mailbox, send it to our address, and we will open up those live on. No, I'm just kidding.
Also, if you listen on Spotify, there's a way for you to ask a question right on the episode. So yeah, and then it comes to me. So if you're a Spotify listener, you can do it that way as well.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, this is the last question I have for now.
Okay.
Again, kind of a bigger overall question, but do you have any like big hopes or dreams for your podcast? So obviously, like, it would be so cool if you had 8 million listeners and the Joe Rogan Experience, offered you $100,000 billion to buy you out. Sorry, I don't know. He's popular. Somebody, obviously, if you had a huge audience and all that kind of stuff would be lovely. But is there anything that like, you're thinking like, man, I would really love this for my podcast? Here's sort of big hopes and dreams that I do have, moving forward.
Well, I would love to be able to do this more and monetize it, which feels weird to say that out loud, but I'm just saying it because I feel like that's one thing I've learned is it's okay to say that, right? It's okay to say that I love that I'm doing this, but also it's hard to put as much into it when I'm not making anything off of it, right?
Yeah, it takes time,
It
energy. It's a part of your
yes,
business, but it certainly is
absolutely.
not one that you could point to and say,
This is where I make my
this is where I
money.
make my
Yeah.
money. Yeah.
So I'd love to be able to have more dedicated time to do this. I also would love for my podcast and everything else that I'm doing to eventually lead to a book.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think that's very achievable.
Yeah.
I have no doubt that you are capable and
So,
could write a book.
if you're a book editor,
And I am been known to
so
edit.
I would say that is like my
Yeah.
big dream, that would be cool, that this podcast and everything else I'm doing could lead to a book,
Yeah.
and maybe even like speaking engagements, because I do love to share. I do love to
Yeah.
educate. I do love to say, hey, I was there too. Like, I sucked as a mom once.
Yep.
And sometimes I still do.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was a single mom once. I was a teen mom once. I was trying to get out of an abusive marriage once, and
Yep.
you can do it. And here are some little baby steps you can take, or here are some things you can just change today that can make a huge difference. So anyway, I would love to be able to do something like that.
I love that so much. And I believe in you. I believe you're fully capable of doing all those things. And I think that we'll speak it into existence right now.
Yes,
That
we're going to manifest it.
You can, yes, I don't know. Yeah, that's a thing. It's a thing.
Let's visualize. Everyone, close your eyes. No, I'm just
Melissa
kidding.
is on stage and people are throwing money at her. Oh, that's a different kind
That's
of
a different kind. Yeah.
stage.
No, I would visualize myself on stage with like a really cute like business suit, like a pantsuit.
No power
Oh,
suits.
no power
No.
suits.
Okay. Actually, we probably just need to cut that. We are out of pocket right now. That's a phrase. But in all seriousness, I love that you have these goals, these ambitions, you're working towards them. I do know that many people have been touched by your podcast. Many people do listen, and it is legitimately affecting the way people are loving their kids and parenting their kids. And that is really just awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm really proud of you. Congratulations on your 1 year
you.
anniversary. And here is to the best yet to come.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Okay. You guys, thank you for hanging in, for having my guest host here. Next week, I've referenced this several times, but next Monday, for my Mondays with Melissa, it'll be answering a listener question about chores. So if you have thoughts, questions, whatever, if you're like, yeah, I want to hear more about chores, you'll want to listen to that one. And yeah, thanks for being here with us. I'm excited for another year. We'll see what next year looks like. Will you come back next year and interview me next year?
Anytime.
Okay, cool.
Cue the music. Do, 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 do.